Good afternoon. For those of you who I don't know, my name is Daniel Glad, and I have the honor of serving as the director of the Procurement Collusion Strike Force. And I say an honor because that's truly what it has been, to work alongside fellow enforcers to combat collusion in government procurement. I'm grateful for the opportunity to serve, and I'm grateful that we're here in this room, in the Great Hall of the Robert F. Kennedy Department of Justice building in Washington. I want to start by acknowledging that the PCSF, the strike force, is only able to celebrate its 5th anniversary here today, to gather here today, due to a lot of work from a lot of people. But don't worry, they really are far too many to name. But know that I see you, our team sees you, and we appreciate you. But we are in a season of giving thanks, and I'm thankful for all your contributions, but there are a few people whose contributions I am particularly thankful for today, and I want to make sure that they get the right accolades. We couldn't be here today without the unbelievable work of the PCSF paralegals, Mark Birkland, Caitlin Collier, and Hillary Fahn, or the work of the Deputy Director, Sandra Talbot, or the Assistant Deputy Directors, Brian Serino and Mike Sawyers. And I want to specially recognize the PCSF's first program manager and the person who put this all together today, Jamie Collins. Her work on this project and on so many of our initiatives has truly been outstanding. And so I'll ask you to take a moment and join me in a round of applause for this incredible team. You guys. But it's 5 years, and it's a time for reflection. And I'm also grateful for the work and the vision of those who came before, those who are now alumni of the Department of Justice, but whose vision was crucial to standing up this team. Some of them are in the audience today, including the PCSF's former acting director, T. St. Matthew Daniel, and the PCSF's first employee, predating even me, Anna Bieganowska. And while I think about the vision, I want to acknowledge some of those who came before. The vision that former Assistant Attorney General Macon Delrahim, Principal Deputy Assistant Attorney General Andrew Finch, and Deputy Assistant Attorney General Richard Powers showed in standing up this strike force 5 years ago. Their collective vision was that by bringing together a group of enforcers, a core group whose sights are trained on a very specific target, more could be done for the public. They believed, and their vision was, that deterrence would be enhanced, detection amplified, investigations and prosecutions increased, and public funds better put to their intended use. And their vision proved true. The group they brought together has grown. Today, in this great hall, we have many leaders from across the PCSF, including prosecutors, law enforcement officers, data analysts, economists, investigative analysts, and other members of the oversight community. Your presence here today, and more importantly, your presence in the trenches, on investigations, prepping for trial, going to trial, represents the best of our interagency model. It captures one of the most satisfying aspects of my job, being a federal prosecutor, working alongside other attorneys, federal agents, analysts, and other professionals, each bringing expertise, each going from strength to strength to enforce the law, and in our very specific case, protect the public fisc. A milestone anniversary, as I mentioned, is a time for reflection. And as I think about the PCSF's first 5 years, one clear lesson emerges for me. We, together, are meeting an unmistakable need for enforcement. Whether you measure it by the number of people trained, the number of investigations opened, or the amount of money at stake in our convicted cases, we are meeting a clear need. From asphalt to concrete, from IT systems to weapon systems, from fuel to fight wildfires to fuel to power U.S. military equipment, we are finding and stopping these schemes. We're doing so locally, regionally, nationally, and even overseas, which makes it fitting that we're meeting here this week, because as many of you know, this is International Fraud Awareness Week, a time when hundreds of organizations, enforcers, and businesses turn the spotlight on anti-fraud awareness and education. Now, we have a lot to cover today, and what I think is an exciting program. We're going to hear from the chair of the Council of Inspectors General for Integrity and Efficiency, Inspector General Mark Greenblatt, about the IG perspective. Following those remarks, my colleagues will moderate panel discussions on 3 different topics. The first will be present and near future threats, featuring the heads of the Commerce and U.S. Postal Service Offices of Inspector General. Second, we'll hear about global and international considerations, featuring leaders from the Department of Defense and the U.S. Agency for International Development, OIGs. Our final panel will be a look to the future with data, analytics, and collaboration with experts and leaders from the OIGs, from the General Services Administration, the Department of Transportation, and the Environmental Protection Agency. But first, we will hear from the Assistant Attorney General for the Antitrust Division, Jonathan Kanter. Jonathan, who, by the way, celebrated an anniversary of his own recently, on Saturday celebrated his 3rd anniversary in this job. It is a season for anniversaries. Jonathan is a proud son of New York, and he's an even prouder son of 2 New York City school teachers. He has long been an advocate for effective antitrust enforcement and increased competition, especially when it impacts and affects taxpayer dollars. He has supported our work since he took this role, and he supports us today. Jonathan, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Dan. Some of the finest law enforcement personnel are gathered in this room. I would challenge you to find a finer, more dedicated, compassionate, but humble law enforcer and public servant than Dan Glad. Dan, this celebration of the PCSF is as much a celebration of Dan's vision, Dan's efforts, his tenacity, and his belief in the mission of the PCSF. He is a treasure for the Antitrust Division, for the federal government, and for the American public. It's impossible to overstate the contributions that Dan has made to this endeavor, and the public, while not aware of it, will never probably fully realize how much Dan has protected them from fraud, saved taxpayer dollars, and made our country a better place. He is a wonderful person, a generous colleague, and I congratulate you, Dan, and thank you for your work. Antitrust law these days enjoys somewhat rare but bipartisan support. Rarely does a day go by where you don't hear from somebody across the political continuum talk about the importance of protecting competition, protecting our free and open markets. And the PCSF is a shining example of that. I'd love to tell you that I came up with the idea of starting the PCSF. I didn't. That idea and that vision was started in the previous administration by my predecessor, Macon Delrahim. Their vision and their belief in this innovative approach to law enforcement generated this extraordinary effort that is only now has achieved so much up until now, but has so much more to go, and an indelible part of our enforcement program. And so it is important for me at the outset to congratulate the Honorable Mr. Delrahim and his team and celebrate the continuity of this incredible vision and the success of the PCSF. With that, I'd like to take a step back and just reflect. And with your indulgence, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the PCSF. 5 years ago, DOJ leadership of the Antitrust Division gathered in this building with U.S. attorneys and leaders of federal law enforcement agencies to make public a bold, innovative vision of an interagency effort designed to protect government at all levels. From collusive schemes and antitrust crimes, these crimes target government spending on goods and services, and they do real harm to the public. The public who funds government and expects to receive fair competition in return. The vision of those leaders, articulated 5 years ago, was to join forces and to create a strike force that leveraged the skills, abilities, resources, and people from each agency in a common effort. It was a direct response to a very serious problem, the manipulation of the procurement system, something that you all know a lot about. Public procurement, an essential part of how governments provide services, infrastructure, and security, has long been vulnerable to collusion in anti-competitive schemes. Whether it's price fixing, bid rigging, or other fraudulent schemes, bad actors have found their own gain, a system that for their own gain at the expense of the broader public good. These illegal practices are not just costly, they undermine trust in our government and diminish the value of public investments. Since that day, in November 2019, the group then and there first announced has grown more than twofold. With support of the professionals at the department, the U.S. attorney's offices, and in the dozens of law enforcement agencies who are our national partners. We are now present in 25 judicial districts in the United States, and we have looked beyond U.S. shores via the PCSF Global to protect U.S. funds abroad. We have also looked beyond the physical world to the digital one. Our data analytics project strives to harness data the U.S. government already collects or should be collecting to more effectively and efficiently spot the indicia of criminal collusive schemes. The results of these efforts have been profound. In its first 5 years, the PCSF has investigated and prosecuted more than 85 individuals and companies involved in collusive and fraudulent schemes, recovering substantial sums for the American taxpayer. The strike force has uncovered price fixing, bid rigging, criminal monopolization, and other corrupt practices that have inflated costs for everything from national defense contracts to critical infrastructure projects. To put a finer point on it, the PCSF and the Antitrust Division have opened over 145 criminal investigations and obtained over 60 convictions for crimes involving over $575 million worth of government contracts and kickbacks. Think about that. The charged cases run the gamut. Criminal charges were filed and resolved against defendants in various industries and geographies, including transportation improvement and repair contracts in California, aluminum structure projects in North Carolina, highway crack sealing maintenance projects in Wyoming and surrounding states, insulation contracts in Connecticut, U.S. military contracts for projects in Alaska, Georgia, Michigan, Texas, and South Korea. The PCSF even successfully used advanced law enforcement tools such as a court-ordered wiretap to collect evidence of alleged big rigging in the act. The PCSF has also enhanced deterrence by detection by training over 39,000 agents, attorneys, auditors, analysts, and procurement officials. We have been able to achieve these results because of you, all of you gathered here in the room and in our extended family. Leaders from across the law enforcement and oversight communities have dedicated your time and people to this work. And for that and the entire Department of Justice and for the public, we are grateful. The work of the PCSF is part of a larger fabric of criminal and antitrust enforcement handled at the Antitrust Division, the part of the DAJ that I have, as Dan pointed out, had the honor of a lifetime for the past 3 years to lead. The Antitrust Division has a seemingly simple mission: to promote and maintain competition in the American economy. Why? Why do we do this work? Because it is fundamental to the economic policy and health of our country. When markets function properly, with robust competition, free of the corrosive impact of fraud and collusion, consumers benefit with lower prices, greater choice, and increased innovation. The public benefits with more trust in its government, and our society at large functions in a healthy, transparent, and fair way. The same is true for the government when it is a customer itself. Lower prices, better products, deliver more for our citizens. The taxpayers deserve the benefits of competition when their governments go into the market to buy goods and services. This matters at all levels: federal, state, and local. Too often, though, government schemes, criminal schemes, cost taxpayers money, because criminal conduct in this area is incredibly costly. One respected estimate is that if we eliminated bid rigging from public procurement, we could help reduce procurement prices, costs by 20% or more. Think about that. That's a literal collusion tax imposed on spending, taxpayer spending. Imagine what we can do as a society with 20% more funding, especially for the three major spending bills passed in recent years. If we're looking for areas to improve government efficiency, reducing fraud and procurement is a great place to start. As I reflect on the work of the Procurement Collusion Strike Force over the past 5 years, it is important to recognize broader trends in criminal antitrust enforcement and how these trends have shaped the PCSF's approach to combating procurement collusion. We use all the statutory tools. Over the last several years, criminal antitrust enforcement has become more aggressive and more sophisticated. There's been a clear shift both in the enforcement landscape and the legal environment, with prosecutors increasingly pursuing criminal charges, whether under Title 15 of the U.S. Code, which is where the antitrust laws reside, or Title 18, which codifies many other federal criminal offenses, such as fraud, obstruction, money laundering, and conspiracies. This change is driven in part by the recognition that anti-competitive offenses, particularly in the context of government contracting, take many forms, and that our talented prosecutors and law enforcement officers should use every tool available to protect the money of taxpayers. The Antitrust Division has consistently focused, in addition, on individual accountability. We charge individuals involved in antitrust violations in recognition that corporate fines alone are not sufficient to deter criminal behavior. This trend has led to a rise in criminal convictions and penalties for culpable executives and employees, reinforcing the message that individuals will be held accountable for antitrust violations. In the past 5 years, we have seen an uptick in high-profile convictions of executives involved in bid rigging and price-fixing conspiracies, sending a powerful and important deterrent signal to would-be offenders. Another key development has been the increasing use of advanced technology and data analytics in detecting antitrust violations. In the past, prosecutors often relied on traditional investigative techniques, such as witness interviews and document reviews, all very valuable and important parts of our investigative work. Today, however, tools like machine learning, network analysis, and big data allow investigators to identify patterns of collusion and fraud that might otherwise or have previously gone undetected. The PCSF has been a leader in advancing these tools, helping to expose increasingly complex and coordinated schemes. Today, data has provided new dimensions of analysis to our investigations, and we are now able to uncover red flags in a way that we have never before, and we are just at the beginning. We are at the dawn of a new age where we're going to use data to detect and prosecute antitrust crimes. And this technological shift has enhanced the strike force's ability to stay ahead of bad actors, who use sophisticated methods to deter wrongdoing. Another area we focus is international collaboration. The increasing collaboration between federal, state, and international law enforcement agencies has played an absolutely critical role in strengthening enforcement. Procurement collusion often involves cross-border networks of conspirators, and many of the largest bid rigging and price fixing schemes in history span multiple jurisdictions. The PCSF has played an essential role in fostering these collaborative relationships, both within the United States and with global partners. These international alliances allow the PCSF to investigate and disrupt global cartels that target public procurement markets, creating more coordinated global effort to combat procurement collusion. Let's talk a little bit about leniency and compliance. These trends highlighted individual accountability, advanced investigative tools, and greater international cooperation, and are reshaping the landscape for antitrust enforcement. And they complement our longstanding work to protect and incentivize good, healthy corporate citizenship, particularly the evolving role of leniency policies and the increasing and important emphasis on compliance programs and culture. Both have played an absolutely crucial role in strengthening antitrust enforcement and incentivizing corporate responsibility in markets, both in the public and in the private sectors. Although our leniency policy has been around since the 1990s, it is not static. In 2022, the Antitrust Division vastly improved our frequently asked questions with an emphasis on making the benefits of leniency policy more understandable and available to a broader segment of the business community and the defense bar. In the realm of public procurement, the leniency policy is especially critical. Procurement collusion is notoriously difficult to detect, often involving sophisticated schemes and collusion between companies that can go unnoticed, sometimes for years. By offering leniency to cooperating companies, the Antitrust Division has been able to break open complex cartel behavior and expose wrongdoing. The incentive to self-report illegal conduct ensures that there is an opportunity for companies to come clean and mitigate their penalties, while also helping to bring others involved in the conspiracy to face justice. In an ideal world, companies have the tools and structures in place to avoid antitrust crimes in the first place. And to that end, the Antitrust Division has publicly available guidance on how our prosecutors assess corporate compliance. While that guidance is focused on how prosecutors weigh compliance programs when deciding on charges and making sentencing recommendations, our compliance guidance also helps companies understand how to avoid breaking the law. We updated our guidance on this topic just last week. Check it out. And it now includes topics like AI, ephemeral messaging, and non-disclosure agreements. This guidance covers best practices for detecting and preventing antitrust violations, including bid rigging and price fixing, and encourages companies to establish compliance programs. By fostering a culture of compliance, Companies can not only reduce the risk of antitrust violations, but also they can position themselves as responsible players and citizens in the marketplace. So the combination of leniency and compliance guidance serves as a powerful deterrent to corporate misconduct. But it also signals something important to the business community, that the DOJ is committed to holding wrongdoers accountable, and by also recognizing that businesses can take proactive steps to avoid breaking the law. As the landscape of procurement collusion becomes more complex, the role of leniency and compliance will become only more important. And moving forward, we expect to see even greater emphasis on the need for companies to adopt compliance programs and to safeguard the front end against fraud and antitrust behavior, while at the same time creating incentive to uncover wrongdoing. Over the past 5 years, Procurement Collusion Strike Force has become a pillar of the Department of Justice's anti-corruption strategy and of the United States anti-corruption strategy. This is due in large part to the collaborative, cross-cutting, innovative work of the Strike Force. It includes a broad and diverse team of prosecutorial, law enforcement, and oversight professionals. Includes prosecutors, investigators, data analysts, and expert partners from across the entire federal government. Together, we all work, to identify and dismantle this fraudulent, inclusive, conspiratorial behavior. By leveraging the expertise and resources of all of these agencies and expertise, we have been able to target collusion and fraud at its very core. In fact, because I saw firsthand how successful the Strike Force model has been, I have adapted that model and scaled it out to other parts of work that the Antitrust Division has done. Indeed, the PCSF was in large part, our inspiration for our new Task Force on Healthcare Monopolies and Collusion, or as we lovingly call the HCMC, which I announced just recently in May 2024. The HCMC will guide the Antitrust Division's enforcement strategy and policy and approach to healthcare, including by facilitating policy advocacy and investigations across all of our disciplines where warranted, whether civil and criminal enforcement, whether criminal or civil enforcement or policy in our healthcare markets. So let's look to the future now. While we are proud of the success that the PCSF has achieved over the past 5 years, we must now acknowledge that the battle against procurement collusion is ongoing and growing. The global nature of procurement collusion, combined with the increasing complexity of modern supply chains, has created new avenues for bad actors. Fraudulent inclusive schemes are becoming more sophisticated by the day, and emerging threats require heightened vigilance and advanced tools to detect and address that bad behavior. For this reason, the success of the PCSF depends on continued investment in the future of this incredibly important and successful initiative. The work of the PCSF demands sophisticated, modern, up-to-date, forward-looking technology, advanced data analytics, and highly trained expertise and personnel to stay ahead of the curve. As we know, procurement collusion is not just a financial issue. It's a matter of national security, public health, and fairness. The cost of inaction is much higher than anything we can imagine. Therefore, it is crucial that the necessary funding and support are provided to ensure that the PCSF can expand and fortify its efforts in line to keep pace with these growing challenges. Funding is desperately needed for specialized investigations, specialized investigators, analysts, data scientists, and investments in new technologies like machine learning and AI to detect fraud early and often. Funding is also needed to ensure U.S. government agencies can upgrade outdated and inefficient procurement systems that bad actors can exploit and utilize electronic tools built on the front end to collect procurement data, including pre-award data that the PCSF and you all can use to do our jobs effectively. Without sufficient resources, the ability of the PCSF to effectively combat existing threats and remain agile in the face of new threats will be hindered. The taxpayers deserve no less. And as we continue to hold bad actors accountable, protect taxpayer dollars, and promote fair procurement process, we must ensure that the strike force has the tools it needs to be effective. So in closing, I would like to thank everyone who has contributed to the success of the PCSF over the past 5 years. It's truly amazing, and we are unbelievably humbled and grateful for all of you. Your hard work, commitment to justice, relentless dedication to transparency have made a real and lasting difference. You have protected successfully the public interest, and I could not be more grateful for your efforts. I look forward to watching the success of the PCSF for generations to come. And together, now and in the future, we will ensure that every taxpayer dollar is spent honestly, efficiently, and in service of the great people of this country. Congratulations, Dan and team, and to all of you on this remarkable milestone. And here's to many more years of success ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan, for everything you've said today about our team, about our work, and more than that, everything you've done for the PCSF for the past 3 years. The PCSF and the American taxpayers owe you, so thank you. Next, moving forward next is Mark Greenblatt. He's the Inspector General for the United States Department of the Interior, and he's also chair of the Council of the Inspectors General on Integrity and Efficiency, or CIGI. Mark has been a leader in the OIG community for quite some time, whether it was in prior roles right here at DOJ, where he worked at the OIG, leading the Interior IG office, or in his multiple roles at CIGI. Mark, the floor is yours.
It's not news to say that the American people have lost confidence in the federal government. It's not controversial to say that the federal government is perceived by many not just as bloated and bureaucratic, but as poor stewards of their hard-earned tax dollars. And that is why this strike force is so important. Not just to hold wrongdoers accountable, which it is doing remarkably well, but also to build confidence in the American people that their tax dollars are being spent well. Now, as Dan mentioned, I'm here to speak today on behalf of the Council of the Inspectors General on Integrity and Efficiency about what 5 years of coordination and collaboration with the PCSF has meant for us, the IG community, the 73 federal offices of Inspector General devoted to identifying and rooting out fraud, waste, and abuse in federal spending. As Dan mentioned, the 5-year anniversary is a good opportunity to step back, to take stock, to reflect on how far we together have come in the fight for fair competition in federal contracting. Thank you to Assistant Attorney General Kanter, Dan, Sandra, and other contributors for bringing us together for this important event and for inviting the OIG community to participate in commemorating PCSF's anniversary. Ours has been a dynamic partnership grounded in our shared mission to protect taxpayer dollars from fraud, waste, and abuse, namely anti-competitive collusion and related fraud schemes in government procurement. It has been a relationship rooted in shared values and a fundamental understanding that American taxpayers fare better when their tax dollars are spent fairly instead of lost unfairly to collusion and other exploitive activities. Simply put, free and fair competition is a driving force, bolstering the economy, wages, innovation, and the quality of goods and services, while collusion is a corrupting one. Now, Congress created the OIG community 45 years ago, and SIGI itself was created over 15 years ago to act as a unified council of IGs to address issues that transcend individual government agencies and encumber the whole. We do this by working with each other to identify weaknesses and vulnerabilities in federal programs and operations, and conducting oversight to address them. I see these same ideals and principles reflected in the PCSF model. The strike force, like SIGI, is focused on outcomes and leverages interagency partnerships, collective resources, and expertise to achieve its goals. By acting as a hub or a nerve center, the strike force enables agents, analysts, prosecutors, and many others from over a dozen different agencies to amass their skills and expertise for a defined and noble purpose: to combat the threat of criminal collusion and what it poses to the integrity of the government procurement process. While I'm here today, as I said, on behalf of SIGI, the Council of IGs, I'm also here as the Inspector General for the Department of the Interior, and that has given me a unique position to witness firsthand the importance of PCSF's work and the magnitude of the task ahead. Interior has received nearly $37 billion from the Infrastructure Bill and the Inflation Reduction Act, more than twice its annual budget. Funding on this scale requires a commensurate level of coordination by us and with you. My agency frequently reports on substantial risks that DOI faces regarding acquisition and expending its funding without effective processes in place. But we are not alone. The IG community collectively recognizes this risk, and that this risk comes at the expense of taxpayers. The good news is that through collaboration and collective integrity, the IG community is making inroads. Last year, we identified more than $93 billion in potential savings for the American people. With an aggregate budget of only $3.5 billion, we delivered a return of about $26 for every taxpayer dollar invested in us. The PCSF is working as well to break down silos and protect the integrity of the government's procurement processes and interests of the people. You heard from AAG Kanter about how much the strike force has done over the past 5 years. Over 38,000 agents and procurement officials trained, over 140 investigations opened, more than 60 guilty pleas and trial convictions, and more than $65 million in fines and restitution. That is a remarkable achievement in 5 short years. From my perspective, I see the work within my own agency, but also within SIGI. DOI-OIG became a strike force national partner in November 2022. Since then, my staff has received training on antitrust risks, investigation techniques, and crucial oversight and law enforcement updates. They've been provided resources and been included in district meetings in 25 judicial districts, joining forces and working with other district stakeholders. They've opened and worked investigations and leveraged agency expertise and capacity in these district meetings throughout the country. Beyond my agency, the OIG community is seeing the fruits of the PCSF model through the development of a new subcommittee to address procurement collusion analytic techniques, share best practices, and coordinate analytics. Various IG offices are realizing and reporting on the risks of inadequate data collection to detect collusion in procurements. The IG community is responding to the risk of collusion in government procurements and doubling down its commitment to identify and mitigate this risk. Despite these advances, however, still work needs to be done. Much of the IIJA and IRA money has yet to be distributed, and agencies, including Interior and others, don't have the adequate controls in place to oversee the exponential amount of funding they are now responsible for. The federal government's decentralized procurement structure complicates our efforts, especially when it comes to data access and proactive oversight. There's no government-wide requirement to retain pre-award procurement data. IGs have limited visibility over federal grant dollars for the use of national and international projects because of the challenges in accessing prime and subrecipient records. That is why continuing PCSF's work is so important now more than ever. Together, we must stand ready and willing to take on these challenges as partners. This gathering serves as a well-deserved opportunity to reflect on our joint successes. It's also a fitting forum in which we can remind ourselves of why we signed up to be part of the PCSF in the first place: to protect taxpayer dollars and to rebuild that all-important confidence in the American people that the federal government can be good stewards of those tax dollars. So let's take a moment to congratulate the PCSF and a shout out to Dan and Sandra for their leadership of this strike force. And let's continue to work on behalf of the American people into the future. Thank you.
Thank you for everything. Small token, literal and metaphorical. Thank you for everything.
So.